Welcome to the Temprecord online video tutorial. In this tutorial we will cover logger parameters in more detail using Temprecord for Windows software. My name is Luca Bartolets and I'm the Research and Development Engineer at Temprecord International Limited. So here we have Temprecord for Windows opened up and I will just go to Program Parameters. Okay, so user data is self-explanatory. Or should be. You basically type any text data you want, and whatever you type in here will be saved on the logger. So we can do test shipment, so you can type whatever you want. In this option you will be able to select what you wish to log. Because the current logger I'm using is a temperature only logger, it only allows logging of temperature. Some of our loggers, which allow temperature and humidity logging, will allow you to select either only humidity, only temperature, or both temperature and humidity. The temperature limits define the valid range of your data. Now, in this case, the upper limit is 25 degrees Celsius, but we could easily make this 60 degrees Celsius. On a non-probe logger, 60 degrees Celsius is your upper limit. Now, lower limit, we can again put this minus 50. This is again the limit for a non-probe logger. We do have probe loggers available which can exceed these limits. However, in this case, because we are using a non-probe device, we will just keep it at these limits. You're also able to change the temperature using the up and down arrow keys, as shown here. If you had a humidity enabled logger, you could define the upper and lower limit for relative humidity. In this case, we cannot do that, as the logger is a pure temperature logger. The start on date option allows us to start the logger at a specific date and time. It will use your computer's clock to generate the start time. This option is very useful if you have multiple loggers and wish to validate a product or environment. So all loggers will start at almost the exact same time. We can guarantee that the loggers will start within a few seconds of each other. It is up to you if you wish to use this option or not. The sample period sets the time between samples on the logger. As you can see, it can be set as high as 9, 12. We just type in the amount of hours here. 20, 20, 24. It won't let me type in 24, but it will let me type in 23. So 23, 59, 59. So your limit is a sample period of about a day. Now, as you can see, a sample period of a day will give you 89 years in 1 month, which will far exceed the warranty period. Normal sample period may be something like 10 minutes, which will give you 32 weeks. Or you could opt for 20 seconds, which will give you about a week. The start delay delays the logger by the specified amount of time before the logger starts logging. This is very good if you wish to precondition your logger to the environment before you're starting. Most loggers will be stored at room temperature, so you would use this option if you wanted to transport something at 5 degrees, for instance. What you would do is place the logger with your product at the preconditioning temperature. You would set the start delay for, I don't know, about an hour or half an hour minimum, and then you could start the logger. In half an hour the logger will begin logging, but because it's had time to settle to your product's temperature, it will start logging at the same temperature that your product is at. Remember, with temperature you will require some time for the logger to stabilize, so using a start delay is a very good option to ensure that the temperature stabilizes to your product. The loop override will come into effect once this duration has essentially expired. What the loop overwrite does is, when the memory is full, it goes back to the beginning, so it would go back to day 0 and start writing over the data on that day. So with this enabled, if we leave the logger running for 14 days, we would only be able to see the last 7 days and 12 hours of samples. The samples before that would be erased. Start with button and stop with button allow us to program the logger so that users in the field can start the logger or stop the logger with the button that is present on each and every logger. If you do not enable this option, the logger can only be started or stopped, respectively, using the Temprecord for Windows software. As you can imagine, this can be a pain if you are out in the field and do not have a laptop or another computer device handy. Allow markers allows us to allow users to place points of interest on the data. So a user just has to press the button for 2 seconds and this will place a marker on the data. Later, when you look at the data and read it from the logger, you will see flags where these markers exist. So again, this allows us to place points of interest or events and time that may be relevant to future temperature changes or events that happen out during transportation. Start with switcher and stop with switcher is available on some of our loggers, and it allows you to start the logger or stop the logger using a break-off tab. In this case, this logger doesn't support it, so there's no need to set this. Enable safe range is a feature which allows the logger to check the current sample temperature value against the limits. So the logger can quickly give you feedback if those limits have been exceeded. The limits delay option gives you an option to delay the alarm for a set amount of samples. So if the temperature limit got exceeded this sample, it wouldn't alarm. It would alarm only after 3 consecutive samples have been exceeded. This is good for some applications, but if your application is very critical, you may consider using a limit delay of 0. Here we have a password field. The password field allows us to protect our logger from malicious use or erasing of data. The password field accepts up to 8 numeric characters only, so any number from 0 to 8. A password of 0 indicates no password. As you can see, the password does not show, so you will have to make sure you type in the same digit combination in both boxes. Temprecord recommends at least 4 digits minimum, but if you want it to be really secure, you would go for 8 digits. On the scientific and the handheld size devices, the password will only stop the user from reusing the logger. On all the new devices, including the Monty and the G4 logger, the password will stop the user from starting and stopping the user in software, but the buttons feature will still be enabled. More information on all of these functions is available in the Temprecord help file, which can be accessed easily and quickly by clicking help. That concludes the logger parameter session. Thank you for watching. In future tutorials we will cover the defaults and the default parameter set, which you will notice is very similar to the normal parameter set. If you have any further questions or wish to contact us, you can do so by visiting www.temprecord.com or emailing us at info@temprecord.com. Thank you for watching.